the meeting. We'll wait a few more minutes until, see if we can get a quorum. If we cannot get a quorum, we'll start as an informational meeting. I know Councilmember Marino and I are here, so we'll give it a few ticks so that other members can come. Madam Kern, roll call.
Councilmember Thomas.
Present.
Councilmember Moreno. She's here somewhere. Councilmember Morel. Here. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember King. We have a quorum if Councilmember Moreno comes from wherever she is.
Yeah, Councilmember Marino's here. Hey, how you doing? Roll call one more time.
We have Councilmember Thomas.
Present.
Councilmember Moreno. Councilmember Morel. Councilmember Harris is absent, and Councilmember King is absent. We have a quorum.
3 members, we have a quorum. Move approval of the minutes from the March 24th meeting. Second by Councilmember Marino. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Kern.
Motion number M24-132. This is authorizing the council president to sign a contract among the city, the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, Wexford Health Source, and Wexford Health Sources to provide comprehensive medical and mental health care to residents of the Orleans Parish Justice Center.
By request, the initial term is 2 years with 3-year potential 1-year extensions to $22,923,609 for year 1 and $23,565,407 for year 2. The DBE requirement was waived. Moved by the chair. No second. Motion doesn't carry. Next item.
Motion number M24-143 is by request also, authorizing Council President to sign a contract between the city and Ubuntu Village, NOLA, to create a community violence prevention and intervention program as subrecipient to the Department of Justice grant funds.
Another by request. This is Dr. Johnson in Ubuntu Village. Another 3-year term. A recipient of the NOHD was awarded the Department of Justice grant in $1,601,024. This is another one. It is a DBE, but the DBE was waived. Moved by the chair.
Councilmember Thomas, is your machine not working? Well, I'm trying to track it.
Oh, you're talking about terms of the motions?
Yeah, that's why you're moving verbally, but it just, okay,
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
wasn't working at first. I'm sorry.
Okay.
3 yeas, no nays. Seconded by Councilmember Marino. Motion 4 is adopted. Next item.
Motion number M24-153. This is authorizing the Council President to sign a contract between the City and Rice Group, LLC, and authorizing, looks like there's a typo. This is for legal services.
By Councilmembers Thomas and King, but by request, legal services under the direction of the city attorney. Request for proposal was awarded to one by the Rice Group, who is classified as a DBE. Moved by the chair.
Mr. Chairman, we have request to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Just put the motion on the table. Well, Councilmember Morrell.
Couple of things. First, we have had extensive council review of this legal position challenging emperors in regards to whether the NOPD is insolvent or not. Extensive public debate on it. The reality is that under the law, NOPD does not meet the criteria and is in fact insolvent, and the council has repeatedly tried to work with the administration to work out an alternative, because right now we're paying emperors a tremendous amount of money because we are not contributing enough money to pay for the retirees we have in emperors. This is a bad, awful legal case. It is not a winnable case. It is so unwinnable that in all of our public discussions, the conversation has revolved around whether or not the administration could convince the legislature to change the law because this case is unwinnable under the law. For this legal position to move forward, if it were to be granted, it would challenge the insolvency of an entire retirement program for the entire state of Louisiana, which is simply not a winnable case. But beyond that, I have tremendous concerns with the parties that were awarded the contract. Number one, from my understanding, looking at the award documents, the Rice Group was not one of the 2 groups selected. There were 2 groups that were selected. The Rice Group was not one of them. The group that won has partnered with the Rice Group in the contracting, but they were not in the initial contracting. But furthermore, just to be quite candid, for those who don't remember Mr. Rice was the CEO of Energy New Orleans during the astroturfing incident that took place years ago. The people of the city of New Orleans were gaslit by paid actors and told that we needed a gas plant that we didn't need. Ratepayers are still paying for the gas plant that didn't work during Ida. The idea that we would employ someone who did something like that at the city's cost, I believe, sends the wrong message to the taxpayers, like we are rewarding someone for something that resulted in the largest fine in the history of Energy New Orleans and the council as a regulator. So I know that in committee we don't kill things. That's not the procedure the way the council works. But I am opposed to this motion, and I will be opposed to it at the full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. And just one quick correction, not really correction, but just to add clarification. Councilmember Morrell was actually one of the largest regulatory fines in United States history. by the way.
Appreciate
Real quick, is there someone to speak on this matter from the administration?
No, they're not here.
No, Mr. Chair, okay. Also to what the Council Vice President was talking about, in the RFP respondent list from the Evaluation Committee, the two groups that did respond, just so that we know who they are, is the Kapoor Company Advisors and Consultants, along with Stone Pigment Walther Whitman LLC. So once again, the Rice Group, not part of these respondents. Apparently, he's part of the Kapoor Company Advisors and Consultants potentially. But then why is the contract with the Rice Group? That to me just didn't quite make sense. So I just wanted to raise those potential issues, Mr. Chair, with this particular contract.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I apologize, Council
No,
President.
Councilmember Morrell.
And one more quick thing, just to be clear, the amount of that plant, what taxpayers are paying, is $210 million. And like I said, I want to reiterate, it's a plant that, due to the testimony of the person at bar, the person who is on this contract, he sat at that table at a council that I was not on, many members of this committee weren't on, but it was represented by Energy New Orleans that this gas plant was going to be our backup plant should anything go wrong. And when Ida hit, the assumption by all ratepayers, by your regulators, was that, well, that gas panel cut in and we will be able to rock and roll, and it didn't. And that was, as I recall, and Councilmember Moreno, correct me if I'm wrong, that was at the heart of the reliability fine that we had. One of the issues was that taxpayers had paid $210 million for a gas plant we didn't need. That was part of an astroturfing scandal that we levied, according to Councilmember Moreno, the largest fine in U.S. history against a utility company, and the gas plant didn't cut on. We are still paying for that plant, and though that amount per month seems small at $6-7 per month, the fact that we are continuing to pay for a piece of infrastructure predicated on a lie, it kills me. It kills me, and it kills me, and it kills me because as regulators, as a council, as a city, it's about people having trust in our ability to do things and do things based upon facts that are presented to us. And I would argue, as the author of the rule that requires people to sign an oath card when they present testimony, that is directly because of the astroturfing scandal. So that's why I want to add that additional information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one speaker on this issue, Mr. Belden Batiste.
Good morning, Council. How you doing?
Good morning, Mr.
I'm here to speak on that contract with Charles Rice. This is another example of the city being a disgrace. How can you put a man that put paid actors from Energy here? But since we're on this subject, let's speak. Y'all, about couple of, I think it was 2 months ago, JP, that Keith Sanchez sat here with PIB. They came and got a $15,000 contract for y'all for 3 cases that they're investigating. 2 of them was on the chief. 1 of them was on Jeffrey Vappy, right? Now, the group they hired is the Clayton Group. The Clayton Group, and Denisha, who is the city attorney, know about it. She gave the Clayton Group a contract. Here, the Clayton Group wife sit on a handle board, but they're supposed to investigate Vappy. Now, Denisha found out about it. She never told the council. She covered it up. And y'all, as a council, I want y'all to look into it because that's a violation. Once you gave the Clayton Group that contract and he didn't disclose that his wife worked for Handle, right? And she didn't tell y'all, they played a trick on y'all. I'm tired of these tricks. You know what I'm saying? You got to be a fool, Freddie, to sign a contract for Charles Rice. You playing the same politics, brother. I'm very disappointed. Because y'all playing these politics and the grassroots people that bust their butt, y'all don't come to me and do nothing in the community. Nothing. Y'all don't buy a kid a uniform, but I see all this money that y'all gave to the people. I'm pissed with all you council people because at the end of the day, it's the same old games that y'all playing. But I'll be back for part 2. I'm here today in raw form.
Thank you, Mr. Batiste. Yeah, you want to speak on this item? Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much. W.C. Johnson from CUC. I think Councilmember Morrell went down the list of reasons why, and I think this committee needs to take it very seriously and kill this at this point so it doesn't go before the full council. We're tired. People are tired of the same old politics day after day, year after year. This is a prime example. Kill this bill now before it goes any further. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mr. Will Goldford from the administration to speak on item number five. Mr. Goldford.
Good morning, council members. Again, my name is William Goforth. I'm a deputy city attorney with the city's law department. I'm just here, honestly, to answer any questions the council might have about this matter. I know the law department has communicated to the council about the RFP process for selecting outside counsel in this matter all the way through, has regularly updated the council in its regular reports about the status, and frankly, simply just that the city went through the standard RFP process to select outside counsel in this matter, just as it does in any other case where it's determined that outside counsel is needed. So, of course, if the council has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Councilmember Marino and then Morrell again. Morrell, then Marino.
You can go first.
Okay. Yeah, so in looking at the RFP evaluation, the two respondents were the Kapoor Company and Stone Pigment. So how did Mr. Rice get the contract?
Well, I wasn't a part of the RFP committee, but I can tell you that they followed the standard process, right? There's a group of people who were selected to be on the committee to evaluate the various proposals.
What I'm saying is that Mr. Rice is not listed on the evaluation committees. Rank number 1 was the Kapoor Company. Rank number 2 was Stone Pigment.
Honestly, I don't have that document in front of me. It's my understanding that he did submit a proposal and that he was ranked and he was determined, the Rice group was determined by the entire committee to meet the criteria needed for this outside counsel.
What's the
scope of
RFP
work.
number that you have?
I can pull it up.
Because the one that we have is RFP number 3658, outside legal counsel relating to the Emperor's Matter.
Let's see if I can find it here.
And if there's another one, it's not publicly available to review. So I'd like to understand why, if there's another one, it's not publicly available to review. As far
I'm
as
not
the
aware of there
evaluation.
being more than one RFP. And as soon as I can find the document, I will happily let you know.
I'll turn it over to Councilmember Morrell while you're...
Thank you.
Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you. This is more of a legal conversation. Well, we've been engaged with the city attorney's office on numerous occasions on this specific matter, and I want to understand, what's the legal theory for why we are going to litigate to begin with?
Well,
And to be clear, your former legislators up here, I've reviewed the law on numerous occasions. There is no defense. So explain to me what the legal theory is as to why we're, first off, we have very able, and I'm speaking to you as directly, city attorneys who could do this case. So one, why do we need outside counsel? And two, what is the legal theory under which we're going to win this case? And three, what makes the Rice Law Group specifically specialized under the legal theory of which you're going to win this case?
so first, I can say there isn't litigation at this time involving this particular matter. Outside counsel is determined that outside counsel would be beneficial in this case. I don't think I can speak in public about such matters without revealing privileged information about
I can speak very clearly as an attorney, as a former legislator. There is a definition under the law in which a department becomes insolvent, with Emperors. That exists in the law and was put there because, as you know, the whole purpose of a pension system is you have so many people that will pay for all the people previously entered the pension system. When the legislature created that requirement, it was because you have a tremendous amount of NOPD officers who are retired and Emperors. And there's a sufficient necessary need of a specific amount of new officers to pay so those previous people could have their pension. The reason why there's an insolvency clause and a penalty is because the way the legislature operates and created that pension system was that if a department becomes insolvent and its membership cannot pay enough money into the pension system to keep it whole, that city then has to pay the balance to keep the system solvent. The reason why this legal theory, to be candid, is stupid, and the idea of litigation is stupid, is because if a court were to find that a department could go insolvent and shirk their responsibility, every city in Louisiana and Emperors could then say, well, you know what? We don't want to pay into the pension anymore either. And honestly, and my frustration is we've expressed this position as former legislators, as attorneys, that we need to be negotiating with Emperors to figure out a way out of this. We are currently paying Emperors penalties based upon the law. What we were told repeatedly by the administration was, we've got legislators that are going to file a bill to get us out. Bill's not filed. Bill's never filed, so we're still in. To now be paying Emperors what they're owed, then to hire outside counsel at up to $225 an hour without any kind of justification as what the path to victory is, because we have not been told in public or private what is the path to victory. It seems tremendously reckless and tremendously wasteful. And if there is a legal theory you to share with us in private, I encourage you to do so, has not been shared yet.
I think I may have lost what the question was. I'm sorry.
The question was, what is the legal theory to win this case?
That's attorney-client privilege.
Okay, we're the clients, and we haven't been told privately before this hearing what the path is to win this case.
Certainly cannot reveal that information in public without waiving attorney-client privilege.
So I appreciate that, but to be clear, and I'll put this on the record, we have not been told as a council, even during an executive session, what is the theory and practice to win this case. Now, this is something you can answer for me. What makes the Rice Group more qualified than city attorneys to do this case?
I can tell you that the Rice Group was selected as outside counsel to work with the law department and the administration on a solution to this problem that may or may not involve litigation based on their qualifications.
But that goes back to Councilman Moreno's point,
Charles
which is that,
Rice-
the problem we have is,
sir?
according to public documents, the Rice Group wasn't selected.
Sir, I was trying to finish answering my
Sorry.
question, if that's okay. My understanding is that Charles Rice himself is a former city attorney, has a lot of experience with government work, and his partner, whose name I am unfortunately failing to remember, has a lot of experience with pension work and pension cases in particular, and worked specifically on one of the firefighters' pension cases. So the Rice Group does have a lot of experience that is very relevant to this matter, and all of the people on the selection committee determined that the Rice Group would be.
Can you show me that form?
I'm looking for it, and again, I've been answering questions, so as soon as I can find it.
I will say one thing. What I find interesting is my understanding, I could be wrong, Councilman Moreno, is that one of the requirements in the RFP was that the awarded firm must be a law firm. And my understanding is that potentially the Kapoor Group, which won, was not a law firm. And I think that might be an issue. But that being said, the amounts that are being given to the Rice Group for both himself and the principal for the Kapoor Group are the Attorney General rates for lawyers. And as I understand it, Mr. Kapoor is not a lawyer.
But then that's a great point,
Councilmember
Vice
Marino.
President. But then you would think that if they were not a law firm who applied for the RFP, then you would have thought that maybe Stone Pigment, who was a law firm, would have been ranked first
Well, if
to meet the qualification.
if the RFP included a law firm was required, and if the Kapoor Group was rated higher than Stone Pigment, then that would be a problem in itself, because not having a law firm I think would be disqualifying. But like I said, I think that at the very least, there's two potential issues. One, according to public documents, the Rice Group was not awarded the contract. And two, I think that there has not maybe been a justification made publicly as to why a law firm is even necessary at this juncture.
Going back, Councilmember Moreno, to your point, a question about the RFP number, is that right? Mm-hmm. It appears that RFP number 3658 is the number we're looking at. Is that the same?
That's the same, and the respondents for that were the Kapoor Company Advisors and Consultants and Stone Pigment Walther Whitman. Those were the two respondents scored. Kapoor came in at 412 from the committee, and Stone Pigment at 368. So Kapoor was ranked first.
All I can tell you is it's my understanding that I do have the Rice Group's submission, and it's my understanding that all of the standard procedures for the RFP process were followed.
What was the score for the Rice Group then?
I don't have that information on me right now. Again, I only have so much information, but I can tell you that the administration made every effort, including the procurement office, which actually presided over this entire process. It wasn't the law department. As with every other RFP process, it was done the same way. And the fact, I don't know why you don't have all the documents, but I can
Well, you don't have the documents either.
I could certainly find them and provide them. to
Well, I
council.
think, but how are we supposed to vote on something when we don't have the documents and the documents that we currently have completely contradict your position?
I will say that the council did have the opportunity to participate in this process all the way through. They were kept fully aware, and I know the council has
In the
participated.
RFP process?
Yes, it's a public meeting. These
Wait,
meetings are public,
Let-
and the
let-
council
let's
has
just-
participated
wait,
before.
Excuse me a
Council
second.
has,
Excuse me, Mr. Goldberg. Let's just have a free-for-all then. If you guys don't want me to chair the meeting, I know I have my little times, but I usually try to respect who chairs the meeting.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
It's okay. No, it happens, but I just didn't want an exchange between Councilmember Marino and Mr. Goldberg.
I apologize for messing up the order.
Without just some
I as
order.
well.
Mr. Goldberg, could you answer Councilmember Marino's question, please?
I don't, is there any other question that needs to be answered?
Well,
Well, it seems like there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Is there a specific question that I
Mr.
haven't
Chairman, can I ask a
answered yet
question,
that was
please?
asked?
Absolutely, Councilman.
I think, to be honest, and I'm being completely honest, the idea that the council is invited to be part of the RFP process is laughable.
It's my understanding that it's happened before.
Laughable. If you would like to point to the emails and documentation in which you sent to the council saying that the Rice Group and other groups are having an RFP on X day and that we're welcome to attend, please find that email and send it to me. Because if your point is that the RFPs general are a public process, I can point to plenty of the members of the public that had they known that this RFP was going out, had it been properly advertised, and the parties being reviewed had been properly advertised, you'd have had a lot more public participation. So if your position is the council is invited to every RFP, I am happy to do a first file on Thursday to put us in the RFP process if that's what you're asking for. In a real significant way, where you send every RFP to us, you ask us to opine on every RFP and to send staffers to them, because I'm happy if you want us that engaged, if the administration wants us there on every single RFP to be sitting in the room during it, to have an extra set of eyeballs, if you're saying that's our right and we should exercise it, I will take you at that. And I will have a first file on Thursday saying send every RFP to us, let us know what day it's going to be, let us know what staffers we can send to those meetings to make sure it's clearly advertised, because that is not my understanding of how this process goes. Typically, when we receive the documentation and it's complete, and there's been nothing you've shown today to show that this documentation is incomplete, we were given documentation, which Councilman Moreno has obtained, which shows who scored the highest, and the Rice Group isn't on it. And for you to keep saying, well, I don't know why you don't have the documentation, we have the documentation that even the public is relying upon, which does not have the Rice Group on it.
Honestly, I don't know where you got the documentation from. I do have reports that were provided.
So
to
are we
us
not supposed to
earlier.
have it?
Sir, I don't know. What I'm saying is that the law department has provided the council with privileged attorney-client reports about ongoing litigation and other matters being handled of high priority by the law department. And as early as December 6th, I have a document here in which the council was notified that an RFP was issued for outside counsel in this matter. And they've received
And when was the notice of the RFP meeting and when we could attend it?
Sir, I'm just telling you what I do have. Council was notified on December 6th that the RFP was issued. On January 8th, the council was notified that the Rice Group was selected and a contract was being drafted. And then I believe there's one more update I have from March about the status of outside counsel selection.
You understand, based upon what you just said previously, that the council was involved in the RFP process. Being notified that an RFP went out and being notified they selected someone is not being involved in the RFP process. You would agree that it's different than the representation that we were involved in the RFP selection process.
Sir, all I'm saying is the council was provided with information about what was going on.
We were notified, according to you, that an RFP went out. We're then notified that an RFP person had been selected. That isn't, so you're saying that is, based upon your representation, we were involved in the process.
I'm saying the council had the opportunity. The council was aware and can do with that information what they want.
But if you don't tell us when the RFP meetings are and when the scores are being done, how would we be involved?
Sir, I'm not making any representation as to what the council should do or what the law department should do. I'm just saying that that's what happened.
I appreciate you illustrating a flaw in the process, and I'll be sure to correct that. Thank you.
Before we move on, participation in communication one-on-one. You don't have to agree with folk. You don't have to expect them to appreciate what you're trying to do or support it to enter into, especially into early communications. We have enough issues with this council and the law department, especially given the fact that we have several attorneys on the council, that if there's an initiative or something that you say is this important, that we have to come here to get it done, especially if it was a part of a request for proposals, then it would seem to me, I always believe you give everybody the right to tell you no. Maybe you start with a no, and at some point, you can have communications to come to some compromise, some level of participation, or maybe their no is no, but they can't say you didn't talk to them. They can't say you didn't include them. And one thing about this council is we have some attorneys here that know the law, that exercise their right, that want to participate. Notification is a lot different from participation. Notification and participation are two different things. Maybe had there been a level of participation, and what's extremely disturbing to me is that even if you wanted to help this African American law firm, how do you do it when the level of communication and participation is not what it should be, especially given the history, some controversy, and some questions that seem to be unanswered? And it especially as a disservice, we struggle here about participation, about helping black attorneys and black contractors, right, and black consultants. And here's another opportunity where maybe some due diligence could have been done and some level of work could have been done where this black law firm or this law firm, even given some of the challenges and questions, could have had a chance to at least have those questions answered by the folk who are going to engage him or his firm, which is the city. And that doesn't seem to have happened. There was a motion, there was no second, unless somebody's changing their mind. Because there's no second, the motion dies. Councilmember King.
How much, can you tell us how much is this contract?
Thank you.
Can you tell us how much the contract is worth?
I think $225,000 was the number that was put out there. I can double check.
While you're double checking
I
that,
know that already.
can you also let us know how much work has been done on this already by the Rice Group?
I don't have that information.
Has the Rice Group done work on this contract already?
I don't have that information.
All right, you need to, Ms. Richard, can you come tell us if the Rice Group has done work on this? Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember King.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish, please.
So is there anybody in this building that could tell us if the Rice Group has done work on this already? Because if he has, or the group has, in my opinion, they should be compensated for what they've done already.
Ooh.
Well, let me finish. No. If they have done work, they're gonna do work and not get paid for it. If that's the case, then that's fine. I'm just let me know.
Under the law, you should not be doing work without a signed contract.
Okay, well, I take that back then.
If they did work before the RFP was signed by the president of the city council, they have, and to be clear, this is a general problem with contracting in the city of New Orleans, in which the city will engage people in this is not a knock on the Rice Group, it's a knock on the city. We engage people in contracts, we have RFPs, they get them, and we do not tell contractors, do not do work till your contract is done. Because the reality is, this might be another case, unfortunately, where a contractor did work without a full contract.
Well, look, I stand corrected. I strike that from the record. But we need to find out if work has been done on this. And look, that's all. We ain't trying to hurt nobody on here. Let's find out.
Councilmember Marino.
Thank you.
Councilmember Morrell was up. Councilmember Marino.
Mr. Chair, just for kind of clarification purposes, I think we need to do a motion to reject to make sure that it doesn't go to the full council, because if we didn't take a vote, like, this could still go to the full council. So I'd like to make a substitute motion to reject this contract.
Moved by Councilmember Marino,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Morrell.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposition.
The motion is rejected. I'm sorry, we had Mr. Ballier. I'm sorry, Mr. Ballier. I had your card behind another one.
As a citizen, taxpayer, homeowner, voter, this is appalling. I mean, we come to these council meetings to find out how the city's conducting business, and we always seem to get disappointed. If our legal department, the city of New Orleans legal department, is handling business like this, I see why, as a retired firefighter who had my pension amount reduced because of bad business with the city, I see how that happens. And there was widowed wives of deceased firefighters, widows of firefighters who had the same thing happen to them. I see this council award contracts and give away money, and we the people, after the fact, sometimes get a look in and follow the money and see who's connected to who and how they got the funds. I applaud you guys for what just happened here. I think we need to take an in-depth look at all the city departments, all the contracts, and see if our money's being spent properly. Because I'm concerned. And people are leaving New Orleans, the economy's got a lot to do with it, but the way the city conducts business is another reason why people are going to Jason here. It's one of the reasons why our NOPD officers, the majority of them that I know, don't live in Orleans Parish. Because they don't like the way this city conducts business, but they come here to work and take the money back to where they pay their property tax, where their kids go to schools, where their wives shop. This is appalling. Please take a look at the other things that the legal department has done.
Thank you, Mr. Ballier. Any online comments? No online comments. Next item on the agenda.
Next item is motion number M24-161. This is authorizing the council president to sign a contract between the city and Quartec Corrections for early warning software used by the police department.
One-year term contract signing by the council president. Move adoption. Moved by Councilmember Morrell, seconded by Councilmember King. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 3 yeas, no nays, and the motion carries. Next item, Madam.
Motion M24-163. This is authorizing the council president to sign a contract between the city and S.R. Williams Consulting for general legal services for the Office of Independent Police
Office of
Monitor.
Independent Monitor, would you rather us approve it, or you want to comment? No, Mr. Met, come on.
Thank you, Councilmember.
You're welcome.
This was on the agenda, so we wanted
Thank you
to
for
make
being
sure
here.
we're present for both of our contracts to answer any questions or to discuss the nature of the contracts.
You want to
how
speak to
much-
both, too, while you're speaking? Go ahead.
Sure, I can speak to both. So first, considering just motion 7 is for the OIPM to exercise our legal right to retain a special counsel, an independent counsel, and we've retained Sharonda Williams for the last 2 years. It's necessary for our office to retain independent counsel for a variety of reasons that I'll just quickly touch on. Sometimes our office is forced to take adversarial positions against potentially the city attorney or elected officials. This was the case last year. We were required to present to the Ethics Review Board as a result, and the city attorney regarding formal letters that our office sent regarding an investigation into Officer Vappy. And later, as the IPM, I was required to attend executive sessions with the ERB to discuss the decisions that I executed during that process, and I was required to bring legal counsel to those meetings. Second, the IPM and the deputy IPM were frequently called as witnesses in civil litigation and in civil service hearings on issues both related to employment as operating the Office of the Independent Police Monitor and for work executed by our office. So attending appeals that may be filed by officers where we're asked to testify. And though both of us are barred attorneys in good standing, we cannot represent the office and be sworn witnesses simultaneously. We respond to a large number of subpoenas and public record requests each year that our council assists with, and we seek council support on legislative and other legal questions and issues to ensure that we are responsible and ethical stewards of our money and our responsibilities. I will note that our right to our counsel is codified in the Home Rule Charter in 2 different sections. And last year we spent $12,397 on our executive counsel.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one speaker, Mr. Edward Parker, on M24-163. Mr. Parker.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning, Mr. Parker.
After what we just witnessed with the Rice case, how in the world would we even have a problem with giving our independent police monitor what that office needs? We also have a problem with the independent police monitor not having enough power to do all of the investigations that this office she needs to have to give us the transparency and accountability that we need. Vote yes to give this office what this office needs. Let's get some public trust and accountability. That's what we need on this council. And you guys, we have to say, we've been here before. Our group, the New Orleans New Orleans United Front, we've been here, and we have complimented you guys on the positive relationships you have reached with us. So please, let's continue good government. This is a good government motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Moved by the chair. Seconded by Councilmember King. We got one more speaker before we close this out, Mr. Gary Bayou. Any online comments on this issue? Okay.
Sorry for the late call.
It's okay.
Again, we the people, the public, have to have confidence in the system. And we know the NOPD is not capable of, my opinion. The Public Integrity Bureau hasn't in the past shown the public that we can confidently agree with the outcomes of their investigations. The Office of the Independent Police Monitor is another leg, it's another place where the public can go and lean on and know that at least the issues are going to be addressed and not swept under the rug. I mean, I'm not going to rattle them off, but I can name 4 incidents that we feel like should have been investigated and either one investigated or just brushed off that I think was wrong. I actually have stuff in with PIB on a personal matter, on a police incident matter that I'm waiting to get to see the results of. And but for the Independent Police Monitor's office, I don't know if I could have relied on PIB. I mean, we have the list of things that are being investigated by NOPD or should have been. I can go back 50 years and tell you about incidents and people dying and things being hidden with NOPD. At some point, we will put that out. But this office should be funded, and from what my observation is underfunded, and the people support it, and I'm wondering why, this is off topic, this council chambers is empty again, and the public's going to find out after the fact about what happens here. Is there any way quarterly you can have an evening meeting where people are at work or at school that want to attend these meetings can have, and once a quarter, just, have the people come in and speak? Because this empty place where money's going to be given away, there's groups I haven't heard of that's going to get money here today for years on behalf of us. And we find out only if we come here and participate or if we read what happened in the papers, if the papers or the news report it. We're throwing money around again, and I'm pretty sure some of us are going to take a look and see if we can follow the money.
Thank you, Mr. Valier. Next motion. Motion M24-163 passed 3-0. Next motion. Any comments you want to have before we go to the next motion? Or on the next motion?
I can comment on motion 8 now.
Go ahead, Ms. Karen.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the vote on this one was?
That was 3-0.
Okay. Next motion is M24-192. This is to authorize the council president to sign a contract between the city and Crouch Law LLC for monitoring and reviewing misconduct and use of force investigations for the conducting investigations on behalf of the police monitor.
Mr. Matt.
Yes, thank you. So the OAPM, we're expected to be on call for officer-involved shootings, hospitalizations that result from officer interactions and vehicle pursuits, and any in-custody deaths. And we must be able to report to the scene or to the hospital within an hour of notification and monitor the entire investigation conducted by the force investigation team. We currently have 3 full-time employees that are on this on-call calendar all year long. It's me, the deputy IPM, our force and misconduct analyst, and then we hope to retain, again this year, our contract attorney, Catherine Crouch, to be able to serve on the on-call calendar. Due to the requirements that any individual need to be able to process and monitor the police actions that they're potentially witnessing, the ability to go to hospitals and view injured or deceased individuals to verify injuries and wounds. They have to have legal knowledge to understand when a police action that was taken was potentially illegal or criminal in nature. It's very difficult for us to find eligible contractors to be able to serve in this role and assist the office. And I say eligible because this person cannot also be representing others in civil or criminal actions against the city or NOPD. We have utilized contractors to conduct these types of case reviews and to serve on these on-call calendars for years. In 2018 and 2019, for example, we had 4 contractors that were barred attorneys serving on the on-call calendar, going to disciplinary hearings, use of force hearings, and conducting case reviews. Under my leadership, I've reduced that number to our current 1 contract attorney that assists us with those things, I've moved all those other functions effectively in-house. So myself, the deputy, we're going to all of those meetings, we're going to all those hearings, we're reviewing and we're monitoring all of those things, and we're serving on more days of the on-call calendar. And I did that to ensure that we're not relying on outside contractors to provide work that we potentially could provide. It has stretched us thin, but it's ensured we're responsible stewards of our funds. And I will highlight, last year we only spent $7,100 on this contractor. We anticipate this year, if given the opportunity to renew this contract, that we would come in about the same amount.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Moved by the chair. Seconded by Councilmember Marino. All in favor? 4 yeas, no nays. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Next motion.
This is motion number M24-197, authorizing the council president to sign a contract between the city and the Baptist Community Ministries for chaplain services for the police department.
We have a card, Mr. Parker. Mr. Parker, this is 197, police chaplain.
I apologize. I had the wrong motion number. I wanted that comment on this past motion that you guys passed.
Okay.
Thank you very much for passing that.
No, thank you. Any online comments on this? Next item on the agenda.
Did you vote on this?
Yeah, 4-0. 4-0 was the vote. No, 197, no, we didn't. That was 192. Moved, we approved 197. Second by Councilmember Morrell. All in favor? 4 yeas, no nays, and the motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Next item is a discussion regarding the trauma-enforced mental health services provided to youth and how mental health impacts crime. Presenters are Jonas Chartok, CEO, Children's Bureau.
If you guys could come to the dais to start your presentation, please. Yes. This is the Outreach and Impact on Violence Intervention, school-based citywide intervention program.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for having us.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
If y'all can introduce yourselves and start your presentation when you're ready, please.
Yes, my name is Calvin Peck. I am the founder of the Overcomers Community Academy, former program manager and of Ceasefire and director of Cure Violence New Orleans.
Hakim Kashif, co-director of the same organization with Brother Calvin Peck.
Thank you. Start your presentation.
Yes. So, first of all, I want to define what community violence is, right? And first, one thing about the Overcomers Community Academy, we are a complementary strategy to policing. You know, we understand the importance of the police, and also we understand the importance of programs, community violence programs. So community violence intervention programs focus on individuals most high at risk of being victims or perpetrators or both of gun violence. CVI provides a public health approach to gun violence prevention, addressing the unique needs of the community where systematic racism, disinvestment, and trauma occurs. And so I just want to talk about first how the Overcomers came along. After Cure Violence was dissolved, I went and I filed for a 501c3. I am a 501c3, been for the last 2 years. Currently, we are working in partnership with Ubuntu Village, NOLA RC, which will be the next presentation that we do. The Juvenile Justice Intervention Center, we are there three days a week dealing with the young people in conflict resolutions, peer support groups, teaching them life skill training and all. And possibly we'll also be able to deal with the youth once they get to the Orleans Parish Prison, the 17 years old that's going to be transferred over there. So we are out on the ground, we are doing work, and so we'll let Brother Hakim explain some of the things that we're going to do.
Mr. Kashif.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman. Good afternoon. One of the most important things in the work that we do is that we really want to outline a community-based intervention, school-based program, because one of the things that we recognize in the school-wide based intervention program is that it's a high level or high risk grounds for criminology or criminogenic behavior. And so the schools does not have like a really comprehensive school-based intervention program that targets suspensions, that targets detention and expulsions and bullying and antisocial behavior that can lead to aggressive or violence. So the current research, as stated by the Public Health Institute, that school-based wide intervention program are successful when you add community violence intervention strategies in there. And so what we are trying to do, Calvin and I, is trying to get our program inside of the schools as well as in outreach, because one of the things we noticing about the 1% of the highest risk is that it's just a very small group of individuals that are on a widespread level of that type of behavior. But if we could target that audience, because every school in New Orleans have statistics of young men that are adjudicated, they have statistics of young people that are at high risk of detentions, expulsions, as well as suspensions. And if we could get into those schools with those high risks, then we can reduce that, because research has allocated that if you get correct programming in these schools, you can reduce that type of behavior, and that type of behavior won't stem it into the streets until young people could be shot or killed. But one of the things I wanted to highlight, that Calvin and I has been awarded a fellowship to the University of Chicago and the Community Violence Leadership Academy for the work that we have been doing in the city of New Orleans. And that was awarded to, I'm like the 35th person out of our city that was recognized for the cohort number 2, where we'll start next month in Chicago at the University of Chicago Crime Lab. So that is pertinent to the work and the success that we're striving to do from an outreach perspective, going in JJIC, because it's just not just telling you these things. We have, the data backs it up with the work that we have done. And what we really wanted to highlight this morning to you all is that we just need the opportunity to allow us to show and prove that we really can reduce community violence.
Absolutely. And also, to add to what Brother Hakim is saying, that we don't only go as far as that, we are partnered with people that actually goes into the community and teach those who are traumatized by the violence that's going on in the city. So the violence don't just touch the people who are doing it and who are victims or perpetrators of it. It's the community that's put at a predisposed disposition to, after a shooting happens, after they've witnessed a shooting or something, people, mental health get affected. So we are dealing with that. So we have the whole wraparound services that we are trying to deal with the community on. And as a person that's in the community still, with no funding, still out there, still doing mediation, still doing as much as I can do, me and Brother Hakim by ourselves, we know that there's a dire need for us to be back on the ground dealing with this particular subject matter.
I'd like to ask
Yes, sir.
you guys a question, especially based on your presentation. I've heard you guys speak. I know you do work, a lot of outreach work. And I know I'm familiar with Dr. Chico Tillman's work in some of his study and research
Yes.
about intervention and prevention and outreach. Why is it important that once the young folk, first of all, while they're housed at whether it's JJIC or the new group that you're tracking now that's going to be over at the Justice Center, why is it important, and why don't we have outreach to them once they leave those facilities?
Absolutely. So it's very important, because it's easy for us to follow guidelines while we are in a prison setting, right? We can do that. But when we get home, we seem to forget those things that we've learned. So we want to create something that when they are released from there, they're able to come to us, and then we can provide those help them provide those wraparound services that they need. So we are building the relationships with them in the prison, for number one, right? And we're trying to do the same in the schools. And we are building those relationships, but we want to be able to not only give them information that can change their lives, we want them to be able to make the decisions in their lives that change the quality of their life.
I wrote a question when you talked about school-based initiative and the need for the schools. The schools keep, we know they LEAP tests in, I think, third grade and eighth grade. We know counselors keep a file, a behavior and academic file. Why isn't there more intense intervention? I think the school system is just part of a major mental health initiative. We know that from whether it's social media or school-based or community-based violence, we know that you can track it, especially amongst juveniles. You can track it to the schools. Why isn't there a citywide school-based initiative, especially when you guys can track the history of a kid who's been either adjudicated to the system, or if you look at their folder on the way to being adjudicated to the system, why don't the schools automatically have an intervention program?
That's a great question, because according to state policies all across the United States, they're what they call PBIS, is Positive Behavior Intervention Services, and it's tier 1, 2, and 3. And tier 3 is when all the students at that particular setting, councilman, can have all the right interventions, meaning that the school is rolling right. But the tier 1 is those of the 1% of the highest risk, and they have been neglected. And so we always made that known to principals. We tried to make that known to the school board officials about there is a need for a school-wide based intervention program that target those individuals that you know can leave from school and enter into a prison setting. And we know who they are. And so it just points to the lack or the negligence of they're not following policies of PBIS. And I really believe that they really don't understand PBIS because they try to connect that to an IEP, an individual education plan. And we all know, according to research, behaviors are not triggered by, well, you can read or write. We met a lot of people in hidden universities, what they call prison, that can read and comprehend very well, but it's the behavior. So we teach young people how to think through a school-based intervention program and get the school officials, everybody on board, and allowed us to go into the school that you know with the highest risk of behaviors, give us opportunity, let us show you that we can reduce those behaviors under school-wide based intervention.
Councilmember Morrell.
Mr. Pep.
Yes, sir.
Your work speaks for itself. Honestly, I could say as a council member, when many of us joined the council, there was a direct correlation between when the city provided assistance and worked with you and people like Mr. Kashif to try and work with our kids. The results spoke for themselves.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
conversely, when the city was not working with you and when the city was not utilizing all the resources y'all have and all the work you've done historically and around the country, when we did not engage you, the results also spoke for themselves.
Yes, sir.
And I am very excited you're back here, you're back in the mix. We're working with you again because only with the work you've been doing with our young people, meeting them where they are, I think that sometimes the public really doesn't understand that kids more than anyone in society are products of their environment.
Yes, sir.
And the skills you're teaching kids, the skills to not just deal with conflict, but to really interact with society in a productive way that will be beneficial to themselves and the people they meet. These are not skills that come naturally when you're in a broken environment.
That's right.
And I've met kids that have been through your program. I've met adults that have been the product of when you were fully engaged in the city previously. And they're the first to say that. I mean, as Mr. King and I said when we were on a call, 2 years ago, kids literally said, ceasefire saved my life. They said that. And that was unprompted. That was, what do we need to be doing to say? They said, what happened to ceasefire? Ceasefire saved my life. So anything we could do as a council to assist y'all in the work you're doing, Mr. Kashif, anything we could do to expand or do more we're here for it because we know you do the work.
Yes, absolutely. But there is something that we need. We definitely need funding, right? And we definitely
We hear you.
a place. We need a spot to engage young people. You know, one of the things that we've realized in doing this work, trying to engage young people in an environment where everything is going on is too distracting, right? We can't have fly-by conversations with them. We have to have them in a controlled environment where we can sit down, get them relaxed, get them comfortable, to be able to impress on their minds the things that we know that will help them change the quality of their lives. So definitely need a place and definitely need funding to keep this thing going.
Have you approached departments in the city to build a partnership to see how we can get more money and more resources to you?
Again, I've made partnerships with different organizations.
The resource, well, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
The resources are there.
Yes, sir.
It ain't never been allocated to us.
Yes. So
I guess my issue is this.
Okay.
If you could tell us who you're working through,
right,
we can give, if it is necessary for more resources,
yes,
we are more than willing, I believe, united as a council to figure out how to get you more resources. If you need a spot, I'll tell you that's something that I've encouraged people to do, and I'm happy to work with you on it, is us try to work with other agencies to see where surplus property might exist or where we can see partnerships to find a location. Because I know we have a lot of different groups that are doing tremendous work that have the same problem, which is we're doing work inside of, let's say, for example, JJIC.
Right.
You're doing great work in there. These
Right.
kids need help when they leave JJIC.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm committed up here to working with you and trying to figure out how to solve it, because if you don't have a spot, where do they go after JJIC to sit down with you, to have the follow-up, to have the conversation support? So I look forward to continued conversations.
Absolutely.
If there's a better use of existing resources to go towards you, I'm for that too. But whatever we can do to help you be successful, your work in the past speaks for the need for this. Because when you have been engaged, when you've been involved in the process, when you've been allocated resources, y'all fly when you got the resources.
And we're doing a lot without resources. So, I mean,
I like to hear that. So
Yeah,
let's figure something out.
Definitely needs to have that opportunity to give young people a place to come, a safe haven to come, so they won't go back to the street.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember King.
A great job with the work y'all do. We all seen it firsthand, up close and in person. Have you all approached the school board, the school board members, and asked for a partnership? And if so, what was the response?
Well, we was in initial conversation with Councilperson Leslie Harris, was supposed to be connecting us with the current the director or the chancellor over the public school system, and we were supposed to schedule a meeting, but at that particular time, she said it was a conflict in the meeting, but we never had a chance to follow up with her because she was sending a representative, and I was telling the Councilman Leslie Harris we need to speak with her. She's in charge. So sending a representative, I don't think that nothing would have came out of the meeting.
So outside of that initial meeting or attempt to meet, there's been no communication with all the entire school board?
I done been in touch with Nolan Marshall. He said you had to come to a meeting, sit in the meeting, and I wanted to have a private setting of a meeting because I started an email. It's just like, there's no accountability among them. Like, that's not really like important, I should say, school-wide based intervention. I think it's other things, and they don't understand that the research directs us to have that in the school system so that we can target those individuals and prevent the school to pipeline to prison. We trying to get it to go to school to pipeline to college or vocationary, not prison. And so the school-based intervention, it should be important in gender. But I've always been in contact with Royce Duplessis as well as with Dr. Joe Bowie. And Dr. Joe Bowie has always been a champion cause of trying to get a meeting like that established for us because he understands that is very critical right now, according to what is happening in our city. Because most of these young people, me and Brother Calvin already knew them. So when we say them in JJIC, we understood why they end up there. It is not making excuses. We say it all the time. You're not responsible for your condition, but you got to be held accountable for your behavior. And that's one of the most important things that I think that if the school board can get a letter from the city council person that we need to have this kind of meeting, I think that meeting have an urgency, Mr. King.
Thank you. That was my question.
Thank you. I think we have I know we have a card. Before we get to the card, I want to thank my colleagues. I think Councilman Morrell's comments were right on. One of the reasons for this presentation and previous presentations, especially the one now, was that it's extremely easy to track what happens on the street, especially when you know the players. And unfortunately, allegedly, everyone knows that my family's been a victim of extreme violence, whether dad or someone, my niece being disabled, and now having to live with major handicap. Several of those kids go through the Juvenile Justice Center. Intervention specialists like Mr. Pep and Mr. Kashif and others work extensively with those kids while they're there. When they leave that environment, they go back into the same family structure, the same neighborhood, the same community.
That's right.
It is extremely important now that a lot of the outreach intensify beyond those institutions, because what you'll see now is retaliation is real. And just because kids take a few months off, just because people who are entrenched in violence and revenge take a few months off, it doesn't mean that it's not going to reignite itself at some club, some house, some playground, some summer event. Councilmember Morrell, there are funds that have already been identified. There's work that has already been done. The question is, do the people in the school system have the same sense of urgency that we have? Do the people in the Juvenile Justice Center, in the prison industrial complex, have the same sense of urgency?
Right.
Are they willing to use those funds that are there to engage intervention experts, to engage these kids beyond their walls? It is easy to be in your best behavior when you're monitored 24 hours a day, and the little benefits you get are incumbent upon how you act within those confined walls.
Absolutely.
But the challenge now is, how do we engage kids when they leave these institutions to not only change their behavior, but to ultimately change their actions? And so I would hope that we can take the very next step to say, it's okay, if the safest place is inside prison or in juvenile institutions, and we accept that, that's crazy. That's unacceptable. So,
That's right.
as you have unanimous support.
Yes.
Hopefully the next step is reaching out to those institutions, saying we need to take it to the next step, period.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pep, any closing comments?
No, just.
And I have two speakers.
No, I just appreciate you all allowing us to come before, and I appreciate all the comments. And that's where the comments are worth more than money. But unfortunately, we need money to make things happen. But the comments keep me going, keep me working, and I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it. Mr. W.C. Johnson, followed by Mr. Gary Ballier. My screen went down.
Thank you. W.C. Johnson with Community United Change. I've known Brother Calvin here for a mighty long time.
Yes, sir.
And he has done an awful lot of work in our community, and we need to see him and others, Brother Kahim as well, Hakeem, I'm sorry, as well. But The problem the chair here raised the question about intervention in the city schools, and I think Councilperson King raised a couple of issues, and I think even Councilperson Morrell raised some things. But the problem is, politics always gets in the way. The reason we have the problems we have today is because we do not have the political participation that is necessary to turn things around. We can bring resolutions to you, nothing seems to happen. We can talk and talk and talk, but until action is brought in, that's when we need, and that's what we need, and how much of that we need is more than we have heard or seen happen in this city. I know this council has worked on a few things with the groups that I'm involved with. Unfortunately, we're still in limbo. Nothing has been done to provide the kind of resolutions that people in this city come up with. And if you're not embracing the people, then what is it about? We're going to continue to have problems until the politicians get involved with the putting the money where their mouth is, to put up and do the things that are necessary to bring about change in this city.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Baye.
Gary Baye, thanks again. I don't know these brothers personally, but I know their work. We need somebody that's willing to engage our children in the community, in the schools, wherever they are. We know there's a violence problem, and we like to couple violence with gun violence, and that's a piece I want to address. We got to stop blaming the firearm and start working on the behaviors that cause those kids to pick them up. That's right. You know, we can't ignore that they have an interest in them. We can't ignore that they have a curiosity about them. And to have our kids pick them up and not be educated on them is wrong. There's a program called the Eddie Eagle program. Anybody familiar with the NRA is familiar with the Eddie Eagle program. See a gun, don't touch it, don't pick it up, call an adult. Our kids, the black kids, I haven't seen not one black kid at one school, one function for kids, play that video. It's simple. And it starts to undo the things that they do, find a gun under grandma's pillow and shoot themselves, or find a gun in under daddy's stuff and shoot the cousin that's visiting at the house. Shoot the infant that's a victim a lot of times because they're not educated. So if we can couple some type of firearms education into these violence prevention programs, we can take care of the part that involved the guns. The other part that involved the kids' behaviors, our mental health and social services in this state, we know what happened to them. We know what governor took that away. Our kids need that. Education, knowledge. And if you have to educate them on firearms to stop shooting each other, let's do that. I have a group called 2A Coffee. I'm speaking from that point, but I'm pretty sure the Orange United Front will back me up on some of this stuff. Whatever it takes to educate our kids out of these problems of hurting each other, we need to do it. And people like this need to be funded. We need more people like this to be funded and less people that are connected. We watched earlier $1.6 million for 3 years or something like that. That'll do a lot of work in the community if you can get something close to this that these brothers can share with other stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Baye. Mr. Joshua Gus. Thank you for waiting, Mr. Gus.
Hi, nice try, y'all. I was here on March 11th at the criminal justice meeting, and where I told you Democrats that y'all were not going to make New Orleans a gun-free shit. What part of shall not be infringed you left-wingers don't understand? Those on the left tried their BS out in parts of New York and California, and both state governors' gun-free zone laws got blocked by the U.S. Supreme Court as an unconstitutional law. So I don't know what made you SOBs on the left think that you could do that shit here in New Orleans. Our great Governor Jeff Landry did his job and blocked it without even reaching the U.S. Supreme Court. The United States Constitution doesn't need to be rewritten. It needs to be reread by you stupid Democrats. If you don't like the U.S. Constitution, then get the hell out of the United States and move to another country. Because you're not going to take away our constitutional rights here. That's the same shit that may be working in New York and California, but it's not going to work here. Yes, you devil Democrats need to. Yes, you devil Democrats need to stop taking away our amendment rights. Yes, I say it devils, because the right to bear arms is not only part of the U.S. Constitution, but it's also part of our God-given rights as well. And anything that the Bible tells us to do, you devils tell us not to do it. Anything the Bible tells us not to do, you devils tell us to do it. Now you Dems are trying a new bill that will make us need a permit to carry here in New Orleans, unlike the rest of Louisiana. Well, if you want us to have a permit to carry here in New Orleans, unlike the rest of the state, why don't you use New Orleans tax money for our permits and training, just like how the city tax money is used for your personal arm protection? Even though you Democrats don't deserve personal arm protection because you're trying to take our protection away. And if you can't use tax money, well, we'll have the same rights like the rest of Louisiana as the Constitution will carry. Would you expect us to run? Come on, New Orleans, wake up and get involved when these devils try to take away your constitutional rights.
Thank you, Mr. Gus. Thank you. Any closing comments before we go to the next item? Or Mr. Gordon could actually join you guys at the table to start item number 12. Mr. Gordon. And this will be our final presentation. Mr. Gordon, if you could introduce yourself. Mr. Pep, you may want to set the table.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Reverend.
Why don't you move over so
Yeah, you said.
so that monitor's not blocking you.
There you go, brother. Reverend Doctor. Good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Harold Gordon, and I'm the president of NOLA Recovery Collective.
And I am Calvin Pep, the vice president of NOLA Recovery Collective.
Yes. NOLA Recovery Collective, our mission is to provide an educational, collaborative, and resource hub with culturally tailored recovery support programs to effectively serve individuals and families in our local community. Our vision, we envision a well-connected and informed community that acknowledge, comprehend, and joyfully embrace the transformation potential of recovery.
Yes. So, I can go and read these priorities, or I can just tell y'all what we do.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, why don't you tell us what you do?
Yeah, I'm gonna just say what we do. So, what we do is we created what we call the community classroom. As I spoke before about once the violence put the rest of the community at a predisposed disposition, then now we need to provide services for the whole community. And sometimes the community is not even aware that they need help until someone come in and start pointing out certain things as it relates to mental health, certain reasons why people are using substances and everything. So what we created was the community classroom. You all signed a proclamation for us. We appreciate you for that. And we did our first community classroom where we had over 15 people from the community came, and we were able to sign up 18 people for a mental health first aid class. That mental health first aid class provides people with the knowledge on how to spot, not to diagnose anyone, but how to be in their families, in their communities, or wherever they are, when someone is in a crisis, they're able to recognize exactly what's going on and be able to connect these people with the proper people that can help them. So we believe that it's real important that we continue to go along the city, because one of the things that I realized with working in the community is it's hard for people to come out of the community to get the help they need. So we go in with that lending hand and help pull them out of the community with the education of the community classroom.
Yes, we believe that if we empower, educate, and then we'll be able to help our community recover. Through the community classrooms, we're already seeing the results of what we have taught in the community. We have people coming to us saying, hey, you know, that information was really good. I spotted it, and I was able to help my sister or my brother or my neighbor get through that situation. We've also, in that first classroom, we had naloxone training that was given to us by Metropolitan. We have a strong relationship with Metropolitan. They've been really helpful thus far. Out of that classroom, about a day later, we had a gentleman that actually had to do a naloxone rescue of a person that had an OD off of fentanyl. So we seeing those things already working in our community. Another thing, we have a strong relationship with Unity. And through that relationship with Unity, we have been able to help. We had a pastor in the New Orleans East area on America Street. The pastor, there was a family that had been unhoused for 3 years since the pandemic. And that pastor, because he attended our training and heard about the services and the connections that we have in the community, he called us the very next day, and we was able to help house that family through the help of Unity. That day they got that family off the street. It was a mother, a father, a 9-year-old, a 11-year-old, and a 4-year-old that was living out of their car on America Street. So because we educated that pastor, we was able to see immediate results. We look forward to educating, like we are also, at this time, we have no funding, but we're doing the work. We're reaching those we could reach. So far, I think we have about 40 people on roster that we have engaged thus far in our community classrooms. It's really helping, and we look forward to doing more with them. We have a waiting list. We have a waiting list of individuals that want to participate in the mental health first aid classes. Unfortunately, that stuff costs. And I spoke to Ms. Brittany Howard with MHDS, and the first thing she told me, Harold, we don't have no more money for you. But of course, we're gonna keep working it because she's real great, and I believe she'll find some money. That's the kind of stuff we have to do in New Orleans at this time, unfortunately, find money.
I don't want to interrupt. I want to ask you guys some questions.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
No
Thanks for being patient with my voice. Some of the stuff I'm interested in while you guys here is that when you talk about substance abuse, and the mental health is trending right now, it seems to have taken precedent over substance abuse.
Absolutely.
Right? And some of the stuff you guys have uncovered in your work, especially brought to my attention, Councilmember King, is the number of young people who, when you talk about mental health and behavior problems, is one thing, but the level of substance abuse, young boys and girls, it is almost as if there's a large part of this community has no idea of the amount of kids who engaged in heavy substance abuse. But there's really no substance abuse treatment targeting them, even if there's some mental health or behavior health. If you don't do both, you can't deal with issues. Could you guys address that, please? Especially amongst our juvenile or delinquent population.
Correct. So, fortunately, me and Calvin are substance abuse educated. I'm a registered addiction counselor. Calvin also has a degree in substance abuse counseling. We are capable of doing the work if given the resources to do the work. Unfortunately, at this time, there's not a space. There's not a funded program that have the money to actually do the work. So not only are we able to do the work, but I'm also a certified clinical supervisor, so I could take someone under me, send them to school, and they could begin working immediately.
Mr. Pep.
Yes, sir.
Because I've read your book and I've seen you lecture, your story is public in terms of an 8-year-old substance abuser.
Right, yes, sir.
If you had an intervention at 8, do you think it would have helped to prevent some of the stuff you had as an early teenager and as an adult, especially as it relates to drug use or substance abuse?
Absolutely. So, and that's the reason why we do this, right? Because I got 27 years of clean time right now. Still active in Narcotics Anonymous, still sponsor people. You know, so it's important for me to educate young people on the effects, the long-term effects of using drugs. And just dealing with the youth that I deal with, they're to a point right now where they can actually see how their drug use affected their behavior. Now, in the beginning, it was a fight with them, right? It was a real fight with them. Like, they didn't think that they had, that drugs did anything but got them high, right? Until we were able to go through a full course of peer support groups with them, where they actually now understand the effect, the negative effect that drugs have on them over a protracted period of time. And we're talking about major learning disabilities among young people because of, first, the trauma that leads to drug use that are mental health. So we don't know which one comes first, the drug use or the mental health, right? But we know that concurrently they exist, right? And that we try to find ways to deal with them simultaneously so people can be healthy in their mental health and also be clean from using drugs. So it's really important that we go in these communities and give people this education because people really don't know, other than what we hear on the news about why all the crime is taking place, but we really don't know their stories.
Mr. Gordon, Reverend Gordon, in a response as it relates to youth involvement in drugs and drug use and substance abuse intervention.
Yes. So what we're saying is, and what we're seeing is the not knowing. The families don't know. They don't know how to recognize. They don't know the effects of it. In fact, we have a culture that's being told that marijuana is not a bad thing, but marijuana is the worst drug going right now.
Worst drug on the planet.
So when we introduce that to them,
Could you explain that now? Because, you know, for those of us who grew up in communities and neighborhoods and families where we watched, you know, I can name you my loved ones who people just said blow it off as weed, right? Where marijuana consumed and destroyed their life. It's politically cliche for folk now, but they didn't watch a loved one mess up a college degree, mess up an athletic career, mess up their life with just weed. Now, I'm not saying it ought to be criminalized, but what I'm saying is it deserves a deeper study and a deeper emotional and psychological detail than people are giving it. Yes.
correct. So let's just be clear about it. The marijuana that was being smoked in 1970 is not the marijuana that's being smoked today.
Correct.
In 1970, the potency, if you was able to get something 15% potent, you had some real good stuff. Today, the marijuana that they smoking is starting out in 80 to 92% potency. So very highly addictive. The first thing that marijuana do is it takes away inhibition to want to do So now that same kid that was a track star don't want to go to practice. That same kid that wasn't having problem in school, now they having problems in school. But it's also a gateway. The marijuana is leading to other stuff. And what we're finding is those same kids that started out smoking marijuana, they're moving on quicker to other drugs, other pills, and that's pretty much what's going on now, and it's destroying families. And let's be clear about it. The kids that's stealing, the kids that's jacking the cars right now, they're not jacking the cars to go get crack. They're jacking the cars and selling the cars, and they need money to buy this marijuana that's not $5 anymore. They're spending $60 for marijuana. So they can't steal $60 out their mom purse like they did in the 70s. They need $70, $60 to get high. So they're stealing cars and
Let me translate to help you. In other words, ain't no more nickel and dime bags.
No, sir. And not only that, council member, not only that, we're dealing with two different strands of marijuana. Medical marijuana and marijuana on the street is two different things.
Okay.
So we're dealing with the THC levels, right? So when they medically grow the marijuana, people have prescriptions for it. They have some additional properties in it. The marijuana on the street, and as an addiction counselor that tests my clients every week, I have clients who smoke marijuana and have fentanyl in their system. It's just enough fentanyl to know that they're not doing fentanyl, but the fentanyl is in the marijuana, the fentanyl is in the cocaine, and the fentanyl is also in all the opioids on the street. So when you have young people who are smoking marijuana on the street and they have fentanyl in it, that takes on a whole different kind of effect that they don't understand. So now, physically, they have to have this weed, right? So as they're withdrawing off of the marijuana and all the withdrawal effects that come with it, they have to get some more because it becomes something that's a physical addiction to them, like all other opioids are, right? So that's why people are able to go to the doctor, get a surgery, and easily get hooked on the opioids. It's a very addictive drug. So putting it in marijuana that young people are smoking, already undeveloped mind, already traumatized mind. Most of our young people are already undiagnosed with things that could be going on with them mentally. It only exacerbates what they're going through. So this is why we see the behaviors and the things that's going on in our community.
Please close out your presentation.
Yes, sir.
So we have been able to address, and that's pretty much just what we've been talking about in general. We've been able to educate, do community classrooms, and in our community classrooms, we address issues such as
with the community class, we deal with crisis intervention. We are able to teach conflict resolution to the community through this community classroom. So we do that. We talk about opioids, substance abuse, suicide prevention. So we have all these different subject matters that we don't necessarily teach. We get more professional people to come in also to teach certain things.
But before we close out, I want to go, I think Councilmember Morrell did a exemplary job of giving it perspective in terms of when intervention works. You can track intervention programs, whether they're volunteer or whether they're funded in program, and actually what happens, especially when you talk about juveniles or tracking people who are engaged while they're incarcerated. This is the reason why we're here. What the last few groups have said is that let's be intentional about continuing that intervention even when they leave the facility.
Absolutely.
And what you see is you'll have the laws in crime, but if you don't begin to change the behavior or continue to work with those kids, the groups that they get involved with in terms of revenge, the negative actions and reactions continue. there's a pocket of money that is already at the Juvenile Justice Center, was supposed to be for intervention and tracking of kids or being involved with school-based efforts or efforts when they leave the system. And then, Councilmember, you were so spot on. Now that you move this 17-year-old group over to the adult prison, that is a whole nother level of interaction that has to happen because they're not getting life, right? So, and the behavior or the education at an adult prison is much different from when 17-year-olds are there at a juvenile prison. So you were spot on in terms of the need, and you can track the need. There'll be success, programs won't be funded, or people who volunteer would at some point fizzle out. The money is there, but now the effort has to be there to continue that tracking that you talked about so it's sustainable. Councilmember Morrell.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, the whole rationale behind Raise the Age when we did it years ago and the legislature has just repealed it was that it was never meant to prevent a district attorney for charging a child as an adult when they did adult things. Right. It was meant so that by default, children were not treated as adults. And I remember some of the stories we had when we passed that bill years ago. It revolved around talking to young people who had friends who entered the adult system at 16 and 17. And to Councilmember Thomas's point, you put a 16 or 17-year-old in adult prison, the intervention they will need after that experience far exceeds what they need at a juvenile facility. At a juvenile facility, when you got kids picked up for stealing a car, not violent crimes, stealing a car, shoplifting, whatever, you realize that when Raise the Age was repealed, by default, a DA can charge a child as an adult for any crime in that 16-17 window. So whereas a kid would go to juvie for being in a car, not even the driver, being a passenger in a car ride across the state, now they go to adult jail for being a passenger in a car ride. And the level of intervention y'all provide for someone at JJIC, at least at JJIC, when you're meeting them in that facility, you're meeting them in a group full of people that are their peers. When you're meeting a 17-year-old at an adult facility, the amount of intervention you will need to do, the amount of resources you will need to reach that kid surrounded by adults is infinitely more expansive and expensive. It is going to require a whole level of interaction with government to try and hope that kid who has that brief interaction in an adult facility, you just don't lose them. Because the biggest thing about Raise the Age, the data we saw while we did it, was because if you had a kid go into an adult facility who should not be there, the chances you would just lose that kid. I mean, that kid would come out of the facility broken and not able to interact as a child anymore was damn near 100%. So we are going to need you now more than ever to help us save those kids who go in that adult facility for that. I was joyriding with a friend. Right. My friend in the car had drugs, so we all got charged with having the drugs. I mean, the stories of kids who were high-performing, smart, high test-taking kids at a public school who just were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they come out and it's just over.
Wow, so spot on, Councilman. I would never forget years ago when we were doing some intervention, when Mr. Delaney had his school, when they were housing kids at what was called the Orleans Parish Prison. They were in the top 10% of performing of high school age kids. Because there was no outreach, because there were no programs to track them, of course, you know what happened to many of those kids. They lost their lives, or they were reintegrated into adult prison the rest of their lives. So it had nothing to do with academic performance. It had a lot to do with all of the other social issues and the social sciences. So, spot on. Councilmember King, any comments before we close this out?
Simply thank y'all for your...
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. How can people reach out to y'all to support your program and get involved with this effort?
You have to. We have NOLARC.com,
Currently, we don't have like a hotline,
Right.
but we do have an email that people can contact us on, and we can, you know, see whatever we can do from there.
And will y'all be submitting for this next budget cycle, as well as continuing to try to access those outreach funds
Right.
that currently exist with JJIC?
Okay.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
All right,
Ralph. Thank you, Mr. Staff.
That's it. Thank you.
Any online comments? Motion for adjournment? Moved by Councilmember King, second by Councilmember Rowe. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it, so ordered.
Thank y'all.